he's on Zoom. I'd like to call to order the August 4th 2025 Committee of the Whole regular board meeting of the State College Area School District Board of Directors. Those who are able, please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks. I'd like to welcome everyone joining us here in person this evening and those viewing remotely from home. The board held an executive session prior to this meeting regarding legal PHRC complaint case number 2024-00050. Board members with an agenda and personnel, Board members with the agenda before you, are there any changes? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to ask the board secretary to conduct a roll call of board members.
Dr. Anderson?
Here.
Dr. Bader?
Here.
Dr. Barlow?
Here.
Ms. Brandt?
Here.
Dr. Buck?
Here.
Dr. Cravapore?
Here.
Dr. Dino?
Here.
Ms. Huff?
Here.
Dr. Miller?
Still last. Here.
And welcome, everybody. I know we've had a lot of vacations so far. This is the first time we've had everybody together, I think, for the summer. So welcome back. We're going to move on to communications, and Mr. Johnson's going to start with a superintendent update.
Thank you, Dr. Bader. The district shared with students, parents, and staff updated safety and security protocols for our secondary schools, 6 through 12, including new IDs, student IDs, entry procedures, and random searches. I would like to highlight that on the first day of school, we will provide all 6 through 12 students with a new ID badge and lanyard, and this badge must be worn at all times while students are in school. Students at the high school and Delta buildings will scan these badges to enter their buildings. As always, safety and security is our top priority, and we believe these measures will enhance the security of our entire school community. So,
thank you, Mr. Johnson. I think we don't have our student rep this evening, so I'm going to share some student initiative information. I'd like to alert you that members of the State High Technology Student Association team finished in the top 10 in 12 separate events at the National TSA Conference in Nashville, Tennessee, including 2 second-place finishes and 3 third-place finishes. State High student Margot Wyckoff, who was appointed as a National TSA officer last year, helped run the conference. More than 10,000 students from across the country, including 462 from Pennsylvania, participated in more than 70 events. Very impressive. Up next, we have legislative update. Jackie, is there anything you want to highlight?
In our last meeting, we discussed extensively the withholding from the federal government of Tier 2, 3, and 4 monies from school districts across the nation. Some of that money has been released, but as far as I know at this point, it's not clear which of those monies have been released. So we're not sure at this point which of those monies will be coming to the district out of that $175,000 that was originally being withheld. So we're waiting for more information. Looking over at Joe and Randy. Let's make sure I'm right. So in terms of the state legislature, there's still no budget. So we are not going to be getting the checks from the state that we usually do in August at this point. But again, once the budget is solidified, that money should be coming to us. So it's more of a bookkeeping issue at this point. But they should still come back to work and pass the budget. Please.
Yeah.
So that's all I have for today. Thank you.
Yep. It would be helpful to have a budget and be certain that we're going to get our disbursements, and the exact amount of those disbursements would be really helpful. Moving on, we're going to have Center Region Council of Governments Liaison, Gretchen or Peter.
Peter, anything? I'll just share that the Whitehall Road Park is officially open.
Excellent. I saw that in the paper. So, yeah, that's a big win. Yeah. Is it, the playground is open? Is there fields that are open yet or not?
The whole park is open.
Okay, I wasn't sure if all the fields were done in this round or not. I couldn't remember the details. Okay.
Yeah, there had to be a certificate of occupancy, and it has been given.
Okay. What were you gonna?
I was going to ask Randy a question.
Sure. I don't know. I think he stepped out for right now.
Right there.
Oh, there he is.
Randy,
Oh,
when do you want to do the contract update? Right now?
oh, yeah.
Yeah. As of last week, all of the power purchase agreements, the transaction confirmations, and other associated documents have been signed by Prospect 14 and Direct Energy. So that piece of the saga is complete.
Great. That's good to know. Thanks, Peter. Anything else for the good of the order? All right.
Just a quick question about the IDs, because I heard this from a couple parents and from a couple kids. I won't name them. How do we choose the pictures that are going to go on those? Like, are they from their like last year's school pictures or?
Awesome. Last year's school picture until the new one comes,
Okay.
until they take the new picture.
And then for new students, how will that work? Like, are they going to be able to get an ID on the first day or?
Yeah, the tech department will be able to take pictures for.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so it might not be their favorite until they get their school portrait, but we can capture their face.
Right, the
We have the
tech.
technology.
Well, they have a camera and everything.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to move on to public comment.
And
Oh, go ahead.
just so another thing, I had a student ask, the ID has to be worn on their person, not on their book bag or whatever else, coat or whatever. It has to be worn on them. Okay.
So it's
belt.
visible.
Yep. So it's visible.
Yeah, that's okay.
This may be a building by building thing, but are we going to have like clear guidelines and consequences for students who like or students forget them, like protocols for that? I don't.
Yes, we're working on those.
Okay.
We're trying not to make it disciplinary, but it's a reminder type of thing.
Okay.
Get an ID, go to the depot, that sort of thing.
Okay. All right, we're going to try one more time. No, it's okay. These are important questions to get answered. So we're going to have public comment at this point. Each individual will be allotted up to 3 minutes for items related to board business that are not a consent or action item this evening. For those items, we'll hold public comment just prior to voting on those items. Did we have any advanced signups, Lynn? Okay. So is there anyone here in person that's here to make a public comment? Okay. Do we happen to have anyone online? Okay. Then that concludes public comment. We're going to start off our committee of the whole portion of the agenda, and we're going to start with Culture, Climate, and Learning Committee. The senior leadership team is going to provide an overview of the annual data report schedule for 2025-2026. Welcome. Thanks for joining us this evening.
I'll always talk. The year prior, about 3 years ago, Chris Merritt, Deirdre Bauer, and I were working with CCL, and they talked a lot about wanting to have data come to the board, and we brought different things at different times back then, and the board was really not sure month to month what we would bring. So we met and kind of outlined a school calendar for each year and really identified what data and reports were important for the board to see. We bring that to you each year. And what we started to do, the first year we did it was 2023-24, and then the next year we compared 24-25. And this year, you will see in the calendar, although this is subject to change, we have the proposal for the 25-26 board reports. Couple updates this year that are different. We just finished our first year of the new comprehensive plan, and we have been working with our buildings to review their goals to end up with the districts of how we did overall in target year 1. So we'll be breaking those goals down. There are 6 goals instead of 4 goals like in the past, and taking those in some of the summer months. There are some other changes on that, but for the most part, it is pretty similar to the prior school year.
Okay. Anything else you guys want to add? Questions from board members? Yeah, Deb.
Just one quick point. What's on the agenda as the attachment is actually the calendar of when the kids have assessments. So I think it had the right memo, but the wrong calendar. And I kind of noticed it yesterday, and I thought, well, either one is fine. And we can, so anyway, we should get the right attachment up there.
I will
the
update that,
public?
Lynn, with the memo. I know I shared the memo. I do apologize.
I think
because
it's
we
the
had
right
shared this.
memo, but it has, instead of having what you have up here, it has the assessment calendar, like PSSAs, when are those? And when's the PSAT and that.
So it's the assessment date,
Yes.
when we're taking. So we will, Lynn has this. She will update that, correct,
Yeah,
Lynn?
so I'm sorry I didn't point it out ahead of time. I was thinking like, well, maybe I just misunderstood the memo.
My guess is they both start with A, and the 2 files are probably right next to somebody's when they
Right.
when they went to put
We
it
have a
up.
lot of assessment
Yeah.
plans, schedules, and documents, but
Totally fine.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah, totally fine. But I figured just for record-keeping purposes, we'll get the right one up
Yes,
there.
please.
Thanks.
And I do want to say, I really appreciate that we've moved to this process. I know sometimes if scores come in late, we've got to kind of do a little bit of shuffling, but to have this overall scheme is really helpful. I know, having gone to PSBA last year, we talked to some very freshman board members who were like, well, I don't know, like, do we see that? And we're like, oh yeah, you should see all these things, and you should make a plan, and you should decide, when you're going to talk about it and things. So I really appreciate that we go through this process. Other questions?
Add that it makes CCD planning easier.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Great. Thanks so much. We're going to move on to facilities and grounds. Mike Fisher is going to provide an update on all 3 of these agenda items. We have district-wide facility master plan with a focus on playgrounds and athletics, a high school sign update, and Mountain Nittany Elementary project update. So lots of exciting things.
Good evening. I'm Matt Harlow with ELA Group. Joining me here, his group actually did the assessments for both playgrounds and the athletics facilities. It was the late June board meeting. We went through kind of the draft playgrounds assessments, provided it to the board. Whether there was any feedback on that. We did attach kind of the final version to this agenda. I wasn't going to go through it kind of page by page unless the board wished me to do that. We're happy to do it. Kind of the main takeaway from the playgrounds was, I think, really a lot of it was kind of the underground drainage was kind of a common theme throughout, even I think some of the newer ones, right? Correct. So, like I said, if there's any feedback or questions, we're happy to adjust or answer or expound upon. Yeah.
Are we in the athletic portion, or can we do the playground portion? I just wanted to make sure where.
I think
Right, so the playground portion, we went through that, like I said, I think it was late June. We went through it as a draft, and we attached the final, but nothing really changed with it.
Yeah, no, I
No,
mean, like right
feedback.
now,
Yeah, yeah.
are we talking only about athletics, or do we also talk right now about playgrounds?
So I was going to go through the draft athletics.
Okay, perfect.
We went through the draft playgrounds a while back. I'm happy to go through it again if we'd like. It's not a problem. Or if there's questions or comments.
Yeah, I think she
sure.
just, well, why don't we just bang out playgrounds right now, and then
Yeah,
we can be
sure.
done with it.
Okay. I just wanted to ask one question. I know with Radio Park, there was a reference to adaptive playground equipment. And so then I went through the report again and tried to kind of like suss out, are there certain kinds of equipment that is adaptive? And so I wasn't sure if there was anything about adaptive playground equipment, or should I know that a upper body equipment contraption is adaptive. So could you speak to that?
Sure. We didn't specifically identify the type of equipment. This was kind of an overview. Your 2019 master plan initiative really outlined what equipment was out there, what needs, and did a playground safety assessment. We did not do that. We looked at that, we reviewed that, and we went out and looked at current conditions as a global 30,000-foot view. And really, it's to help develop your 10-year capital improvement plan. So we're identifying some things that might be larger ticket items for cost that you should plan for in the future. So we didn't get down to that weeds at this level.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure. I'm a new board member, and so wasn't sure if there was certain kind of equipment that is like.
No, it raises a good question, and I apologize. I can't recall the details, but with us moving the multidisability classrooms to now at Mountain NEL, are we thinking and preparing further access to the playground? Because we did have some adaptive equipment at Easterly in the past, I believe, and whether that's going to move over or new stuff or whatever.
And the report that I guess the school provided from Radio Park, where they also have an adaptive room, actually specifically asked about that, which was what cued me in to kind of
the question.
Query if I just missed something.
No, to Matt's point, this is more of a 30,000-foot view for planning purposes long-term, right? So we'll look at, for Mountain Indian example, Mountain Indian Elementary, if we're looking at, kind of redoing that playground. At that point, we'll get feedback from the community and the board and stakeholders on what type of equipment, which equipment we need to be adaptive, right? Where that placement is and that sort of thing. So really kind of getting into the nuts and bolts of it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? So, Mike, when we start to get to some of these things, is administration then going to kind of propose a sequence or like a priority list of where we're going to potentially tackle first?
Right. So this is kind of the last bits and pieces of this facilities master plan. The greenhouse gas inventory, just so everybody's aware, that data and preliminary report came in, I think Friday. So I'm going to take some time to absorb that and ask my own questions to make sure I'm clear on everything. And then we'll be presenting that out, that piece of it. And then once that's done, everything's finalized, all the pieces will be finalized then, put it all into one big master plan. And then kind of the data from that will be incorporated into my 10-year capital plan that I will put out probably before Christmas. So
okay, that's helpful to
timeline
understand.
we're looking at. And I know I put some memos out there kind of outlining some timelines and some milestones with the facilities master plan. And we've been a little late on a couple of them, and I will apologize for that. That is my fault because I've pushed back on some things, and we want to make sure that we're thorough and we're doing the best possible product we can for the district. So.
Great. That's really helpful. Thanks.
So if there's no other questions or comments on playground, go ahead.
Just one comment, because I promised the kids that I would bring this up at Ferguson Township Elementary. They would like a zip line. So you remember?
I was there.
They were.
Oh, at the tour. Understand.
Mike, what did you push back on?
Just making sure that we had enough details for everything, right? It was, we started at a very high level, and we want to just dig a little further on some certain topics and just kind of some iterations. So
Great. Okay. So
with that, we'll roll right into more of the draft athletics presentation. I'll let Matt drive, and we'll get to questions and comments.
Sure. We have a little slide presentation that kind of takes some of the graphics that are in the report, the draft report. Again, this is similar to what we did for the playgrounds. This is a high-level view, looking at what from our perspective, do you have some current deficiencies? Are there inequities of venues across the campus? As you know, I've been involved with this district for a long time in a variety of capacities, so this was fairly easy for us to do, but just wanted to get in and kind of go through some. So it's really an inventory. You can keep going through, Mike. Mm-hmm. So the first slide's really looking at what we wanted to do is identify your venue and who plays on it. So we got information from your athletics department, your big facilities, Memorial Field. And the key from that, when we look at it in helping Mike develop his 10-year capital improvement plan, we're only looking outside facilities. We're not looking at the bleachers or anything like that. But in synthetic turf, you want to start budgeting for that replacement. And a good rule of thumb is 10 years. Turf, they'll warranty it for 8 years to 12 years, depending on that. But a rule of thumb is to start budgeting replacement of turf, and it can last longer than that. So we identified some of the things on these graphics. Memorial Field, you had it, the turf installed in 2023. So 10 years out, 2033, you're going to have a fairly large ticket item. Then we kind of broke the high school campus down into two segments. One we call community field, and one I call high school. And the high school really, we're identifying some of the venues there. We have the North Turf Field that was part of the high school project. Then we have Welch Field. It's down in the detention basin for the behind the pool. South track facility, then the tennis courts, and we identify some of those improvements that have been made to those facilities. So this is kind of the inventory, what you have and who's playing on it. Then we get to community field. So that's everything from the new physical plant north. And, community field has its name for community likes that area. So we identify there that the tennis center, it had some polishing and 2 years ago with surfacing. Baseball, your varsity baseball and softball, and some of the other sports under. So we're just identifying those. That's what these slides are really showing. Then we get into Mount Nittany, the campus here, identifying some of these items. And what I'll say is for items 3 and 5, they are going to be impacted by your construction out here. So you have what we've identified as some sports on there, going to have to be relocated. One of the fields is going to come back in as sod. So a natural grass field bringing sod into play gets that playability pretty quickly. But then you'll have some other impacts to other sports, some softball and baseball. And also wanted to identify, you did years ago purchase about 4 acres of the wooded lot up there at the northwest, excuse me. So that might come into play for something, and we'll talk a little bit later on. Then we get into Park Forest and identify some of the things out there. And I will note all these elements out there are going to be impacted by your project. So you need to take into account, what are we going to do with those? Things like cross country. That's run out there on the park. So once we start getting in and the middle school starts construction, all these venues are gone from the inventory that you have. So we're going to have to make sure that we bring them back, because they're going to be out for a period of years. Then the last thing, we kind of identified some other larger areas that you have in the school district and that you could potentially look to if you need some extra space at Radio Park. We have a lot of area down below that is a floodplain, as we've noticed when it was under construction, and it filled up by about 8 feet. Mm-hmm. So we have availability down there, but it does have some restrictions. Ferguson Township has a large area out the back. That's in a stormwater facility that's within the township. But we could use that for certain sports. Then you have Easterly Parkway, it has some. So we're just trying to identify with these first slides what you have, and more for Mike's use and kind of gauging, what sports are you have and where they're at. And then part of this study, we started developing some ideas of costs and some potential improvements. And what we've identified, at least from my perspective, your biggest needs as a school district on your major athletic venues, baseball field needs attention. You have your varsity sports. That's probably the one that needs the most attention.
Baseball and softball.
Well, softball's not too bad. Your baseball field, and we'll show you a couple ideas that we come up with that, again, these are just ideas. So this first slide's identifying some things on the north field, or on the high school campus. The north field, we talk about the synthetic turf replacement. Lacrosse, we've had some discussions in the past. They would like a wall out there, so we're identifying that as a potential cost. Some audio visual upgrades out there, so we'll identify those and some costs in a pavilion. So some of these things we're hearing from physical plant that might want to be included.
Mike, can you explain what the wall?
I was
Yeah,
going to, yes,
thanks.
because I didn't know either. So it's they.
I played
yes.
lacrosse, but I still didn't know.
Lacrosse, yeah, they basically take the ball and they throw it against a wall to it bounces back, and they practice catching it and so on and so forth. So
Sorry.
I do see. I've seen students against the Delta building doing the same thing. So yeah, so it's been a question. I didn't know what it was either.
Okay, that makes sense. I didn't know if it was for something more elaborate than that, but yeah.
Can you just tell me a sentence or two about the pavilion? Like, I know what it is, but like, what would it?
So it was something that athletics has brought up about is that booster clubs, PTOs, One North Turf come out there to sell concessions, and it's kind of, I guess it's pretty tough to all the equipment out there, the canopies and everything else. So we were looking at basically a small pavilion with concrete slab, something pretty rudimentary, but just to be able to just for concessions.
And these are items we're just plugging into an estimate, so it gives Mike some. We may be way off. We don't know exactly what they are now, but it's a line item that we're plugging in that help him budget in the future. So.
Before you move on,
Sure.
just with respect to the lacrosse wall, like where would it go? And I'm just thinking about safety for the other kids and the other sports that are using it. That, like, it's one thing to run into a chain link fence, and it's a completely different thing to run into a concrete wall.
Yeah, and we've had
Because there's not a lot of space
right
around the outside of that field already.
Right. We've looked at some early on potential locations. They would be right next to the fence or close to the fence in the sidewalk area, looking to set it back a little bit. But we have a lot of utilities and other things out there, so we're kind of limited on where we can actually land that. But it was just early on getting some locations that we could explore further, and it really hasn't for the last several months. We haven't talked much about it. So,
Okay. I'm just concerned about safety.
yeah, and obviously as it gets designed, we'll make sure
Yeah.
that it's safe. So.
Thanks.
And moving on, the south track and turf field. So again, you're going to have synthetic turf replacement, some track resurfacing at some point. I threw in a thing about access and spectator improvements. I think if you've been out there to watch, everything's up above. It's not easy to get to, so there might be something. So don't know what that is, but I threw some money in at it as an estimate. Tennis courts, you'll hear a little bit about that. That's your second venue in my mind that needs a lot of attention potentially. At the South Campus, that would be total reconstruction there potentially. They're not graded appropriately. The fence, they need some work at some point. Then really the field events, those are fairly need in the near future. Some of the throwing or the runways for long jump, triple jump, pole vault, they need some attention. So again, these are just identifying some of the bigger items that we saw, so we could put some numbers to it. Then we came up with a couple options for what could happen at Community Field. Talked a little bit about baseball being a big need. Really, this first option is playability. It's to get the outfield, infield to really mesh better. They're not in planarity. They're kind of offset. So years ago when I was up there watching, somebody hit a grounder in the infield and it became a line drive because the outfield was a little bit lower than the infield. So there are some enhancements, and it has gotten better over the years. But again,
So Amy, you brought up the softball as well. Just to clarify, it's not an equity thing. This baseball field is actually, the grade is much worse than the softball field.
No, I
So,
appreciate
yeah.
that. That is why I brought it up, because I didn't want us to just refer to community field as like the baseball field when it's a complex of both. So I appreciate the clarification that it's
Yeah, so the
specifically
first-
that field.
this first option is really just to regrade it and sod it. So that's purely what that was, to get it in a better playing condition. Option two is with spring sports in the Northeast, we have a lot of weather that is challenging for the sports to get on the fields, especially with baseball and softball, where their infields are clay that hold water and become a mess, as Mike probably knows. So we see a lot of School districts going to synthetic turf infields to help them get out there earlier. So this scenario, again, would renovate your outfield in sod in baseball, then look at a synthetic turf infield. Then again, up here we would do it. If you're doing that, we would suggest doing it to softball too. So that's just an option. Again, these can be, we're not saying that you have to do them. These are just some options to get some numbers down on paper so you can further evaluate what you may or may not want to do.
For some perspective, what our ask was of the ELA was really to put together several options, really about cost. To say, okay, hey, if we were going to put some money on community field, what are our what's priority one, right? If we want to throw some more money at it, what's priority two? And then, as Matt's about to present, kind of the Cadillac, I was like, okay, if we wanted to go all in on this, what does that look like? Just so we're aware. We're putting it out there. So, like, for example, option one is really, okay, if we had a set amount of money to spend, where would you spend it, right? A limited amount of funds. Where's our highest priority on community field? And it's really that varsity baseball field. And then say, okay, what's kind of the next priority? Really getting into more of the softball field as well, kind of getting more playability. And then as we'll get into option three here, it's really more of a complete overhaul of the entire facility.
Right, but my question is that depending how much overall we want to do, is there an option like even within the baseball field, like
Sure.
we don't have to get the Cadillac, or like are we going to get options between those?
Absolutely. So, for example, like I said, the baseball field, the grade itself is really the issue. We've rented equipments to try to, and we've improved it significantly, but it's still not something that we could do without kind of a complete overhaul of it. So, yes. So, for example, you could kind of regrade everything and then put sod down and no synthetic turf would be a less expensive option for option one here. Yeah, so each one, there's multiple ways to do each option.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know, if we're going to
Sure.
get
And
those
like, again,
choices also.
we're at 30,000 feet here. We say, okay, we identified that we want to go after this and make this repair or make this improvement. Then at that point, we'll get into the nuts and bolts to say, okay, here are the options to do this.
Thank you.
And the last option is, as Mike references, the Cadillac option. And again, this is just a quick, this could be done 1,000 different ways, but this is a complete baseball, softball complex, synthetic turf, practice infields, field house. So number one is that you've just taken your spring sports and turned it, there's no issue with weather out there now. So it's a massive facility, but it can be done in several different ways. We also looked at this, at least for me, from a community field perspective. I know the community does use that area up there a lot, so we tried to condense as much as we could and still leave some of that open space as community field available, because if you would go to a synthetic turf option, your security has to be ramped up. You can't let community on that as much as you'd want to. So we wanted to make sure that we left some community space. So the other big need up there was the tennis courts, the tennis centers it's referenced. It's, in my opinion, the pavements at end of service life, the retaining walls, and it does not have ADA accessibility. So as a consideration, at least for this option, doesn't mean we have to do it or should do it. I think it's a good idea to keep tennis there because of a community aspect of it, and it's always been there. It's kind of an icon. Where would we locate that? We have enough courts over in the south facility to serve the high school. So up here, you could consider, let's get the ADA access up, let's make it a little more, let's redo it, go to 5 courts instead of 7 courts. It gives us the room to get the ADA access in, gives us some playability, it keeps it there that it's been there for forever. Some other pieces, especially with this side of campus, is parking. So I show some options for some parking, some off of Gill Street and also off the 1.5 acres that the school district purchased. Those could be separate projects. They don't have to go. But I think if you do something like this, parking has to be considered. Then we left, the area where softball outfields are as community space. So again, this is just my version, my thought of what could happen. It could be 10 different varieties of this. And it's just, what this does is give you a pretty good, or gives Mike a pretty good idea of what something like this could cost. And it's,
Sure. I want to note, too, that the 5 courts is what the USTA often asks for, to have a 5-court system at least. And then, I've had a discussion with the tennis coach, and they do use both courts simultaneously for both varsity and JV play. So we would get a lot of, it's not just the community field, we're putting tennis courts in for the community. It would be, our students would also use those courts. So.
I have another comment, but also for the tennis courts, like I drive by during the day and the gym classes use the tennis courts. So as we're considering if there would be any changes to that tennis facility, we need to be talking to the PE department as well, because they might really need 7 courts in order to accommodate the number of kids that they have in the PE classes. So just another group to talk to. But my main question is, especially with this option number 3, there is no consideration of the fall sports that use community field. And so I don't want to lose sight of that. Soccer uses community field all the time in the fall. That's the current situation. And if we don't have another plan for soccer, then we can't just box them out of community field.
Sure.
And options 1 and 2 look like there would still be space for soccer. Option 3 does not.
you can do that pretty easily. It's outfield fencing, and that can be put in sleeves. It could be you roll it out. So if you take fencing out, your synthetic turf can be striped for whatever fall sport you want. So really, it's in this option. If you would choose not to put in the outfield fence as a permanent fixture and it be temporary as you have it now, then you have all that space to use it. And with synthetic turf, you want to use it as much as possible. You don't want to just keep this for spring. So, I mean, if I would make a recommendation, I would do this as a multi-sport complex with your outfield fence as a temporary measure. It might be in sleeves. So when baseball comes around, you put that fence in. When baseball is done, you pull it up and you might go out and stripe it for lacrosse, soccer, or something like that. So you can make it a multi-sport complex.
Okay. It's not clear and it's not shown. Like currently community field, you can get 2 full-size soccer fields practicing simultaneously. And I can't see it that would happen in option 3, but if you penciled it in dotted lines or something to show the math, that would be helpful.
Sure, we could certainly do that, sure.
Thanks. Peter?
Yeah.
Jessica, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask you, have option 3 has a press box. How much space do you think that's going to take, and how many people do you want in the press box?
That would be up to a final design. We're just identifying that as a piece that most varsity facilities of your...
I didn't see it in the other 2 options, so...
What's that? I'm sorry?
I did not see it in the other 2 options.
Right, so option one, again, option 1 is kind of, if we had this, wanted to put this amount of money into it, here's our first priority. 2's, if we would have put this much money, here's our second priority, and then option 3. And it's really, it was, our group was a driving factor to ELA to lay this out so that more for budgeting and planning purposes in the future, so that we know if the board and the school district wants to head this way, we have an idea of what we're getting into as far as costs.
Yeah, it's like orders of magnitude in terms of where we might go. Peter?
Yeah, so I want to comment on the materials that we're talking about. So the synthetic turf options that are available almost universally contain PFAS, or forever chemicals, polyfluoroalkyl substances from plastics. They persist in the environment. They stay in the water table. Every person in this room has PFAS in their body, and the concentrations of PFAS and other plastics in our bodies continue to rise. There's been a 50-fold increase in plastic in our environment since 1950. We have 350,000 chemicals in our environment. And according to the Stockholm Resilience Center and peer-reviewed research on environmental toxins, novel entities and their combination in our bodies is one of the planetary boundaries that's been exceeded. I don't say this because it makes me feel good. I say it for quite the opposite reason. There is twice as much plastic on planet Earth as there is biomass. I'm going to say that again. There's twice as much plastic as there is biomass. I mean, it's everywhere, right? I mean, I'm not proposing that the State College Area School District is suddenly going to escape the reality of plastic, but inviting children to perpetually play more on plastic surfaces that will infiltrate their bodies and are connected to a number of health effects that we can all read about if we want to, I think I think that that's a Sophie's choice. I think that we are placed into a situation constantly by the materials in our world that make us make bad decisions. I'm not saying this because I think that anyone sitting here in front of me is like, hey, everybody, let's like put a bunch of PFAS into kids. Absolutely not. But that is the choice that we are constantly being faced with, and it is everywhere. And it just really, really bothers me. I think it should bother everyone. And I was not going to let that go this evening, that we are being confronted with an option of spending hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to further expose our kids to things that can disrupt their endocrine systems, make them less likely to tolerate vaccines, any other number of things. So that's all I have to say.
Gretchen?
Yeah, so thank you. I agree with everything Peter just said. And then in addition to that, I did hear you say that, should we put synthetic grass at Community Field, then the community would no longer be allowed on it. So, because of security reasons. So I know that this has been an issue in the past just with the signage there. And so if it were to be the case that that's a possibility, I think that we would be hearing a lot from the community, and we'd probably have to change the name if the community is no longer allowed on Community Field. So, Mike, I see you wanting to say something.
Well, we didn't say that. So what we were looking at in option 3 was if we do a part of Community Field in synthetic, that we want to fence that in. Now, we've left, I would say approximately 50% of the field open. It would be open. It would be not fenced, open to the public, grass, or there's room here to put, let's say, an infield in. All right. So there's other options there, and I'd say 50% of the park is still completely open to the public, as the tennis course wouldn't also be in this representation. I mean, again, we would get in the nuts and bolts if we wanted to get into it and what that looks like. But we were cognizant of that. But we just know that if this is a direction we wanted to head with, being able to have more access and more basically days to get on with synthetic, then we would want to at least fence that piece in just as Memorial Field is.
So 50% of Community Field would no longer be accessible to the community.
In this example.
In this example.
Again, this is one example. This is one idea thrown out there. If we get into, we want to look at Community Field and revamping all of it, obviously there would be a lot more discussion take place, and this design could completely get turned on its head, and we could go in a completely different direction. But for right now,
thank you for the
planning
details,
purposes,
because
yeah.
I'm on the Parks Authority as the SCASD rep, so I need to be able to tell them accurate numbers, so now I have them.
We are very cognizant that the community wants
appreciate
to be
that.
able to use that field, yes.
Yeah. And then just one quick comment. If I read it correctly, I just wanted to add to the notes you made about the track and field facilities, because it's not only the middle schools and the high school that uses those facilities, it's actually also all the elementary schools. use that as well for their sort of championship at the end of the year. So anyway, just in terms of, what the board wants to prioritize, that's something that actually, literally the entire district has at least the potential to be using. So there aren't many things where all three levels, use them, but that is one of them. And I didn't see elementary on there. So anyway, but thank you so much.
We aren't quite done.
Yeah. Well, so before we move to the next, so
One more slide.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is not a statement about my opinions about these three designs, but if we're going to talk about the pros and cons of synthetic fields, and when we talked about putting Northfield in, I had a lot of trepidations and reasons I was not certain that it was the best choice at the time. And so I'm just going to share the other pieces of information and Carleen can probably back me up, from going to CAC for athletics from the athletic department's stance, or the reasons that they ask for it. I mean, when you talk about weather, they struggle with canceling games. And that has, if we go back to some of our other major district-wide planning, when we talked about Memorial Field and other things, we have very limited field play opportunities. So the scheduling for the athletics department gets pretty complex when they have to reschedule games because of weather. They don't always have a field available on the date that the other team's available. There's a lot of complexity there. And I'm not saying that's a reason to do synthetic per se. I just wanted to share the different pieces of information I've gotten over the years as to what some of the rationales are for moving in certain directions are. And there's pros and cons to weigh with all of them. And having kids have experiences would be one argument on that plate. I think the kind of experience and the health of those students are certainly extremely important. So again, this is not a statement on my personal opinions. I just want to share with the public and other board members that are newer some of the different competing factors that we've talked about in the past. So that's it. I'm done.
The last slide was looking at this campus out here and possibly tennis. Again, we were just looking at equity across your venues. You have Park Forest has tennis courts, and it will have tennis courts in its future configuration. You don't have tennis courts out here, although they were planned originally, and I kind of indicate that with the starred area. That's where that was planned. So we just dropped them in out here at different locations with different court orientations where they might fit, where they might not. Again, just to give some idea of what could go out here and the costs associated with. Not saying it's going to happen, but we just wanted to throw some things out there and at least put some costs down for consideration if something goes forward in the future. So.
And Gretchen, I appreciate your comment about the track. There's really right now no open spot that we own to fit another track. And we have internally just, with Park Forest Middle, the old Park Forest Middle site. I think just a casual conversation, it was brought up, and maybe, that might be a good spot for a track, but we don't know. As of right now, we don't know where the direction we're headed with that, but that's certainly something we could look at. So
You need about 6 to 8 acres minimum for a track. So that's a fairly large chunk of area.
Any other questions, comments? So
I just had a question looking at this slide, and I'm not just in my head thinking back to the facilities master plan. Is there any sense that, like, when we do work on Mount Nittany Middle School, that it might change the footprint of the building in some way?
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is just like, we're going to drop tennis courts in places, but we'd also have to review that plan first.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, there's no. I know there's no plan for an expansion of Mount Nittany Middle that would take up more ground. So we're going off of that information that we currently have.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Other questions? Did you? Yeah. No. Okay. Gretchen.
Yeah, that just made me remember from the CAC meeting, we talked about the fact that there'd be fewer tennis courts at Park Forest Middle, and now anyway, I'm sure that you're keeping tally of all this, but just, how many courts do we need, and how many courts are we going to ultimately end up with after, should this be renovated, and should So I just remember from the meeting, it kind of felt like we weren't really sure if how much use those courts have had in the past, and how can one middle school have tennis in their PE curriculum and another middle school, Mount Nittany, not, and there were a lot of questions about tennis courts.
I know at
So
Park
I thought
Forest-
I'd bring it up in the full board meeting.
Yeah, at Park Forest Middle for the new school, we were, I did ask ELA to try to fit a fourth court in because of the feedback from the PE teacher that, that was requested for this program to have the 4. So we were able to fit that in. We cannot physically fit 5 courts in as the USTA has asked the board. We've looked, we tried, it just doesn't fit. So, but we were able to accommodate a 4th at the request, like I said, of our students.
Okay. I think that's it.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt. So those are good, helpful brainstorming starts to think about what we could do. Yeah. The next was the sign, high school sign. Mike, I'm not sure if your mic's on. Okay, maybe a little closer then. I'm getting waves from CNET.
Yeah, it wasn't on.
Oh, it wasn't. Okay, sorry.
I'm bringing up the.
Gotcha.
Yep. Sorry, I've got a few different presentations up here.
No worries.
Well, that's not even my computer.
Oh, wow.
That is.
That's a little frustrating.
I don't know what that is. That's
Okay.
not my computer. It worked a second ago. So we'll just go through, I guess.
Well, we have, those of us with our computers here at the table at least.
Right,
can
it is, it's
pull up
on
the-
Board Docs,
yeah.
so again, real quick, the high school sign, I know this, we've talked about this before, but last time we brought it toward the board, I think it was, the question came up, oh, well, what is this made out of? What does it look like? We have attached the actual construction drawings. I've had the architects put together a couple of renderings so you can kind of visualize it. It's a pretty simple sign, brick with a cast cap, aluminum letters, which are sized appropriately for the speed of the road so that you can see it. And it's lit with a couple small lights at night. So very, very simple. So we wanted to, like I said, we went through a few different iterations to try to bring that cost down. So yeah, I mean, questions, concerns, anybody not like it? Want to change something?
Go ahead, Deb.
I guess I have 2 questions. Number 1, I guess it relates to, don't the townships or the borough have rules on how much signage we can have? So if we erect this sign, do we have leftover signage space for additional signs?
I would have to get back to you on the exact square footage that we have currently. We looked at this 6 months ago. I know
Yeah.
we're okay. So I have to refresh my
Because
memory. And
related to that, I would think if we go ahead and make this sign, it would be a reasonable expectation and request that there would be a sign on the other side of the street for Delta. And so we would need both funds to do that, and we would need signage space. So those would be my 2 concerns, and whether this is the best use of our funds right now when we have a lot of other competing thoughts. And I'm not sure how I feel about that, but that's my concern at this point.
Sure. I mean, I know we were, again, forgive me, it was about 6 months ago. I'll go back and look at the actual numbers. It's a certain square foot. It's 200 square feet per deed is basically what it amounts to. I know there was discussions about Delta and make sure that we would have enough to do Delta. So those were conversations that were had. So I'd have to go back and look at what the square footage was, though.
Okay. But presumably, assuming we had the space, you would probably need to double the cost estimate to make a similar sign on the other side of the road.
If it were the same sign, yes.
Yeah. Ann?
Well, that was my question. So that aesthetically, if we had one design on one side of the road and another design on another side of the road, that would make me, as a person who likes order
and symmetry,
but that's not reason to vote on something. But I do wonder, like, are we going to be thinking about all the stakeholders so that the Delta has a voice in
the process
design? So if we have two signs, are they going to match?
Well, the other question is location. So I know part of having been here, and Gretchen may remember back when we first started the high school project, there were thoughts of, like, since this is at the time was our only official high school, that there was some emblematic, sign. And originally at one point, I think we had talked a little bit about having it in a different location. I don't know what, I'm just trying to picture in my head, like where something might go on the opposite side of the street, because there's the student parking lot comes up pretty close to the intersection, and there's the faculty parking lot close to the intersection. So there's that too, as well as to, like, not that I would still want to do whatever is equitable, but I just I can't picture where it would go.
Well, I mean, the sight lines on the other side
are very different.
Infrastructure is really different on the other side. Yeah, I mean, I think for someone who likes order, you're going to have to, like, either accept some real difference, or you're going to have to change things that are on the other side of the street. And all of that sounds pretty annoying.
Yeah.
I just want Delta to be part of the stakeholders, about that.
Right. Yeah, I know in terms of a process. So that's tricky. Did you want to add something?
Well, we have to also look on the building itself and what we're changing over in Delta. So, their new name is middle school and high school. So there's signage that needs to go on the wall as well.
Right, because when we first did the building, there was a lot of angst and discussion, like what do we put as the letters over the entrance? And yeah, people wanted to make it positive, but then the athletics facility is still there and including that name. And so it kind of just got this like North Building, name. And it was tough to come up with what was the right label, knowing we didn't know how that program was going to grow in that space and what it might look like. So it was tricky.
Are we incorporating a sign in the new Park Forest Middle School plan? Because if you're going to do a sign for Delta, which is also a middle school, are other middle schools going to request the same thing, and are we going to have the same design?
Well, we have signs at every building. Like, we have signs at the entrance to our elementary schools. We do have, like, a sign at the entrance to Park Forest. We don't have, like, this emblematic thing. And I'm not making an argument for or against it. I'm just sharing, some of the background as we've come up to this point. And part of it was that, at the time it was the only high school, so it was the culminating experience of all students in our district sort of thing. Gretchen, do you have something you want to add from that process or something else?
It's all related to...
Well, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. So with that idea, I mean, it just got me thinking about economies of scale. Like, when Aaron said that, like, could you get, a deal if you're going to get 3 signs instead of 1 sign? If we're going to think about signs for Delta, sign for the new middle school, and the sign for the high school, which is on tonight's agenda. I just remember we talked about that and reaped the benefits of that when we built 3 elementary schools at the same time. So anyway, that was one idea. And then also, I would guess, and I don't want to speak for Delta in any way, but knowing how much I know about Delta, I would doubt that they would want the sign to match. And I would guess that they would want to be heavily involved in any sign that they happen to be a part of in any way. So, and then also, I just had a question about the item actually on tonight's agenda, which is, and it's in your memo about how, you know, the original design came from the architecture class, and some of us went to that that class and saw the students present, and it was really cool. And so I'm just curious. I mean, I know it was a lot of money, and so then, you know, there's been many iterations about this sign. How much of the student design or student designs, you know, were able to be incorporated in this? Was this kind of starting over from scratch, or was it trying to take, you know, what they had done and then make it into something that was more affordable?
The latter, or the former, yeah.
Cool, thanks.
So, and we have all of the designs that came out of Mr. Crawford's classroom were shared with the architect as a kind of a starting point to kind of put this together. So
I just think that's a really cool thing to have the students, you know, influence and ideas be a part of this. And those students are no longer at State High, but there are architecture students at State High, and, you know, for it to be widely known and not just for a few board members to know about it, because it's a pretty cool thing. So.
Other questions or comments or feedback about if this comes back as a action item in this format? Are there any requests for changes or modifications? Jackie?
So just to be clear, there is a sign above the door at the high school that states that it is State College High School.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is it out of bounds to ask about adding a fountain as part of that? Sorry, Randy.
What about, and the playground?
our next step here would be permission to bid the project.
Anything else from other board members? Okay.
I'm sorry, can you repeat what you just said, Mike?
So our next step.
The next step would be asking for
permission to bid. Right, correct.
Okay.
With as designed as is.
Hearing all the concerns of the board, are we sure that we want to put this to bid? Given what's on the district-wide facilities plan, all the athletics, things that students can actually use, are we sure we want to spend $70,000 on a sign and then another sign for Delta? Because we know that that will be something that would be asked for $140,000.
Speaking of it not being able to be used, is the height so that students could sit on it?
Yeah, so we set it up so number one, it's a little bit lower for security purposes. We'd be collaborated with our SROs on it, and then the idea is that graduation or prom, whatever event, students can get pictures then standing in front of, standing behind of the sign.
So it's short enough people can sit on it.
I have to say, I think, isn't that where we put the bus usually? I know I think the bus is really popular location for photos, but I understand what you're asking. I think, though, that semantically and logistically,
I'm just putting it out there.
People could give opinions tonight, but it's not on the agenda to vote on, so we really shouldn't express strong, an opinion that we definitely, it should come for a vote if that's where we're at, unless the administration doesn't want to propose it whatsoever. So, but we can also vote on it. We can be the ones to say
Could the
yes or
bus be a sign since we put it out?
Well, there's a banner on it every year. It says class up.
But I'm saying, can we leave it
all the time?
Just change the,
I think there's some sightline issues there.
I don't know if that would,
But anyway.
I mean, we have to find out if we can even have two signs. Because if we can't have two signs because of the township and our certain kind of sign limitation rule.
99.99% because I remember, like I said, forgive me, it was 6 months ago, but we knew that would come up.
Yeah.
And we weren't going to propose the sign unless we knew that we had some room to go over to Delta.
Work through that. So basically, I guess it's fair to say that there's a lot of trepidation about moving forward with this as to potential repercussions and additional asks and versus the value added at this time, especially in light of what we're facing with no state budget yet, questionable federal budget moving forward in the near future, and a variety of other economic issues before us. So I'll just maybe state that out loud for everyone, that maybe that's a lot of issues on people's minds, and that may color our discussion and decision-making on voting to potentially bid on it. Just so the public is aware tonight that when this comes back forward, we might have a pretty vigorous discussion, and we're not sure where this is going to land in this case. Is that fair to say?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Yeah, did you have something else to add, Gretchen?
Well, yeah, I was just thinking also, I don't know that I would feel comfortable yet because we don't know about Delta. And so, like, now, especially now that they're officially a school, you know, to not know, oh, are we going to want to pay $70,000 for them to have us? Yeah, so it's
Right.
just,
Well, so
yeah.
we can, so certainly in terms of sequences and possible outcomes, this could come forward. We could potentially vote no to bid at that time. That doesn't mean we lose the drawings or lose the design or lose the option to potentially do it in the future. I know that it's in the memo a little bit that there was a donation made by the PTSO, and that would have to be kind of addressed with them, but it doesn't mean that that can't happen and potentially be dealt with. So saying no next month does not mean no forever per se, but it might not mean in the next year or two or whatever. So, yeah.
We have options.
Yep, exactly. There's options, and it can always be brought back another time too as well. I mean, I think it's hard. I think we all want to really value the students' work, and it would be lovely to have them have a physical representation of that work and all those things, but we've got a lot of other factors that we've got to consider when we make any of these decisions. But I appreciate all the work that you've done, Mike, and to answering these questions and to making sure it's thorough and all the other things.
The board, once we can explore options of looking at starting design process, at Delta and engage, start that engagement, because I think this process has been a year or more. So, maybe we could get economies of scale would help a little. Might be minimal though, but yes, I mean there's certainly some economies of scale there. So.
In light of that, I'm just gonna say one thing. Like, it just, as I looked at it again, it reminded me of how we resolved the diploma issue that we had. Like, the diplomas are gonna say State College Area School District, and then there will be the emblem inside, either for Delta or for State High. So it's just something to think about moving forward. Is there a way we could have a universal, just State College Area School District sign that might work for everybody? Because we might have another high school someday down the road. Anyway, so let's move on from this one, unless there's any real adamant comments. All right, Mount Nittany Elementary.
Yes.
No, it's going to work.
Okay, walls are going up. So the west wing, I think the CMU and the block is pretty well wrapped up at this point. They're doing the connections to the building. The inside work, the current building is kind of wrapping up. So right now, like I said, the current building is getting a new clock system and PA system to kind of integrate with the new wing. Like I said, we've been focusing, a lot of contractors have been focused on inside the school this summer. We've had to work around them a little bit to try to get the school cleaned, waxed, and that sort of thing. But, our staff's doing a great job with that. Like I said, interior, and then if you go over there, if you look at the curbs, kind of the outlines of parking lots and driveways, sidewalks are all poured. So it's about wrapped up as well. So kind of the next couple weeks, Letchworth Duck Banks, so that'll be going in. A lot of work in the mechanical room that won't affect the heating and cooling the current school, because school's about to start. They'll be doing then the south, kind of the south wing, and building that up, same as the west. And then the finishing up, setting the steel in the existing building as well. So right now, we're still, as far as schedule-wise, right there within kind of our float position, 3-4 days. So we don't envision right now any issues. So we did have, just so the board knows, we did find a sinkhole outside of the work area, so we're working to address that right now.
Great. That's
Questions?
exciting. I'm sure the kids will love seeing walls when they come back.
Yeah.
As opposed to that big empty lot that we saw on our tour this past year. So, questions from board members?
When is it going to be complete, like students in the building, in the new part?
For next school year. Fall 26,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay. All right.
I think that's all I have.
I think that's all for facilities. Thanks, Mike. That was a lot. Everybody doing okay? Okay, then we'll plow on along. This is another opportunity for public comment that we have during the meeting. Do we have anyone here in person interested in making a public comment? How about anyone online? All right, then we'll move on to the consent agenda. This includes several items we address in a single motion for approval. To facilitate questions, though, we'll run through each category individually. Any corrections to the minutes? Okay. First up, we have, we retitled this category to operations because it encompasses quite a lot of things. So you'll see a change from finance and personnel to just general operations. This includes a lot of annual renewals of contracts and routine contracts, some agreements with different universities that we work with, as well as a pug mill purchase, which I know for the art people and ceramics people like my daughter is very exciting, along with human resources. Any questions in here? Okay. Oh, sure. Yeah, Jackie.
Yeah, so I don't know if Lauren or John are joining us tonight, but in the human resources, I couldn't help but notice there are a lot of TBDs for fall sports coaches, and I understand like tryouts are happening for those sports. So I was just looking for a little information in terms of like, is there possibilities that some of those programs aren't going to run, or like, do we have those squared away, or where are we in that process?
I know Lauren was potentially going to be here for a later action item, so I don't know if he's online. Lynn, can you? Not right now? Okay. So maybe we can try and run that down and get back to the board. Or, yeah, did you have something to add?
It just add that we always need coaches.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an ever-going problem. So we still run these sports, but we know that we need people in these areas. So I'm not exactly speaking for him, but just being on the committee, I know that we're always looking for coaches.
Yeah. Every year and every season there generally are some slots, but I agree with you, Jackie. There's quite a few this year at this time of the year. So hopefully maybe some of those decisions are just wrapping up, and we'll get those at the next round of meetings. Last section is instructional programs. We have a consulting agreement with Devapar, which was Dr. Sneath who presented at our last meeting. And our last, typically we have 5 foreign exchange students, so we have our 5th foreign exchange student application. Any questions for these things? Okay, then I'd like to call for a motion to approve, I always stumble over approve consent agenda items 9 through 11 as presented.
Have so moved.
A second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. One more time, any last questions or discussion? Okay, do we have any public comment on the consent agenda? All right, board members in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda has passed. We're going to move on to action items. First up, we have agenda item 12A is a motion to approve a 5-year contract with Automated Logic Control. This is shown in attachment 12A.
Miller.
So moved.
Oh, Miller second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. So this is for technical equipment to run the automated systems for our buildings in the district. Any questions from board members? Okay, any public comment on this item? Okay, board members in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that item is passed. Agenda item 12B is a motion to approve a project test and balance proposal for the Mount Eddy Elementary Expansion Project as shown in attachment 12B.
Buck, so moved.
Demo second.
That's been moved and seconded. So this is routine testing on a physical plant project that is our obligation to complete. Any questions or discussion from board members?
I guess I'm a little curious. How do you get proposals that are so varied in, I mean, like, the proposal that we're potentially going to accept is like half of the highest one.
Eastern Air Balance does a lot of balancing in the district. We don't really hire them much, but all of our contractors do.
Oh, okay.
So they're very familiar with the districts, and they're pretty close, and they always have people in the area. That's probably driving a lot of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, some of the companies we get proposals from are a little further away. I mean, may have
okay,
kind of
okay. That makes sense.
yeah.
So
Different
location.
overhead
So
costs.
they'll piggyback this work onto some other work they're doing in the area.
Oh, okay. All right, that makes sense.
Okay, that's helpful to know. Anything else? Any public comment on this item? All right. Board members in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that item is passed. Agenda item 12C is a motion to approve the purchase of a van for LifeLink Apartments. This is shown in attachment 12C.
Demo, so moved.
Huff second.
All right, moved and seconded. This is a replacement for a aging vehicle. Any questions or discussion from board members? Okay. Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, board members in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that item is passed. Oh, wait, now I've lost track. Because, no, my script, we're on D, thank you. They all say A, which is just a typo. No, it's okay. It happens. I do know the alphabet, I believe. I just lost track. Agenda item 12D is a motion to approve the purchase of a van for the Transportation Department, shown in attachment 12D.
Huff so moved.
Sure. Darlene, go ahead.
Yeah, for the last Chevrolet, it was only available in 12 and 15. Do you know a price? And if it has to
Be a 10-passenger.
Carlene was asking if we knew the prices for the bigger vans, and is there a reason we wanted it smaller, right? Isn't that what it was?
Yeah, like it had to be, like if they gave us a 12-passenger, but it was a good price.
Well, there's different licensing rules for
Okay.
12 passengers than there are 10, and so we've been going with the 10 passenger.
I see, okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
That's
thank you.
That's a legitimate reason. Okay. Any other questions about purchase of an additional van for transportation? Oh, we need a second. I apologize.
Anderson, second.
Okay, so now it's been moved and seconded. I'll ask again if we have any questions. You guys are so quiet on some of these, then I lose track of where I am. All right, any public comment?
No.
Okay. Board members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that item has passed. Agenda item 12E is a motion to approve a sanitary sewer easement for the Park Forest Middle School project. This is shown in attachment 12E.
Miller,
Brant, so moved.
Okay.
Miller,
I
second.
just want it on record, I'm not the one rushing.
I'm
Other
excited.
people.
I'm
you know.
excited about the sewer.
Oh, you're
Can I
excited
say?
about the sewer for Park
I
Forest.
was
And
super
we're always
excited.
excited about anything for Park Forest Middle School project, obviously. So this is so that we can hook into the sanitary sewer municipal services for the new project. So I have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion from board members? Besides giggles. Go ahead, Deb.
So my only question, and I will admit, this was like one of the last things I read, so I was getting a little tired, and I am not super familiar with construction things. But I feel like there was a statement in this that basically said, like, you can't move the location of the sewer line or something like that. And so I just want to make sure that we are confident enough in our plans that we are comfortable with the location that we're kind of
We are. committing
to.
Right, and if you look at the drawing, if you remember, there is across Valley Vista, we have a stormwater retention pond,
Right.
which this will kind of circumnavigate around, and then kind of come straight across. So it's best case scenario.
I mean, I was sure that you had already considered all of that, but that was the only thing that gave me pause in the wording was you're kind of locked in now.
Yeah.
Okay. If you feel comfortable, I feel comfortable.
Excellent. Any other questions on this item?
It's kind of important.
Any public comment? All right, board members in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, stormwater is passed for Park Forest Middle School project. Next up, agenda item 12F is a motion to approve a cooperative agreement with the district, Pennsylvania Interscholastic Athletic Association, Inc., and Nittany Christian School, This is shown in attachment 12F. Do I have a motion?
Have so moved.
Anderson, second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. This is a result of, I think we had discussions last meeting about some of this. Questions from board members? Okay. Any public comment on this item? No. All right, board members in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that item's passed. Agenda item 12G is a motion to approve an agreement with Educational Leadership Consulting for board professional development. This is shown in attachment 12G.
Have so moved.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. So this is a contract for our annual board retreat and some board professional development. The consultants are a combination of a former superintendent and a former school board president who have been highly recommended. Any questions from anyone? Okay. I appreciate the board's support for this, and it's been very positive working with this group in terms of making a plan for this session, so I appreciate their professionalism and help. Did I ask for a motion already? Yes. I thought so. All right, good. We're on public comment. Thank you for keeping me on track, Lynn. Do we have anyone for public comment on this item? Okay. When I add off-the-cuff remarks, I get lost. Okay. Board members in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that item is passed, and that concludes our agenda for this evening. Looking ahead to future meetings, we have August 18th, 2025, a regular board meeting. That'll be here at 7 p.m. in Panorama Village Boardroom. Also on August 19th, we'll have Policy Development Committee. That's at 1:30 here also in Panorama Village Boardroom. And with that, I'd like to adjourn the meeting of the State College Area School District Board of Directors. Have a good night, everyone.